Let's talk about sensors. The hidden champs in the modern world. The podcast series from Dr. Block. Brought to you by All About Sensors.
You know that feeling, right? You finish a run, hit stop on your GPS watch, and the distance is, it's just a little bit different from last time. Even though you swear you ran the exact same route, it kind of makes you wonder, what's really going on with these little devices we trust so much? Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're doing a deep dive into the, surprising accuracy story of Garmin GPS running watches. Specifically, looking across different generations, we're pulling insights from this really fascinating study published in the International Journal of Computer Science and Information Technology.
Yeah, and our mission here is really to go beyond just those feelings, those anecdotes you might have about your own watch. We want to explore the actual scientific findings. This study used years of really careful personal data from a dedicated runner, who's also a computer engineer, Joe Dumas. And his data reveals quite a bit about how these popular devices have evolved, especially in how accurately they track your miles.
Okay, so maybe let's start with the basics first. How do these GPS running watches generally work? What's the science behind how they're trying to track our runs?
Right. So fundamentally, these watches record your location.
Yeah.
But they do it at specific points in time, these discrete intervals. That's how they calculate your distance, your pace, all that stuff. Now, civilian GPS got pretty accurate back in 2000, but there are still inherent limitations. Things like where the satellites are, atmospheric conditions, even like big buildings or lots of tree cover can mess with the signal. And crucially, they aren't tracking you continuously, second by second, smoothly. They grab a location, say, once a second. So your nice curvy run path gets turned into a series of short straight lines between those points. And that introduces errors right there. Generally, consumer GPS is usually accurate to within about 3 meters, give or take.
Okay. And we've all seen how Garmin's Forerunner series has changed over the years. They definitely went from those bigger, kind of clunky early models to the much smaller, sleeker ones we have now, with way more features and, importantly, better battery life. But here's where it gets really interesting, based on this study.
Exactly. That evolution, the smaller size, the longer battery life. Well, it often comes with a hidden cost. And that cost can be accuracy. See, one way to make the battery last longer is to increase the time between those GPS location pings, that sampling interval we talked about. So instead of every second, maybe it's every few seconds. Great for batteries, sure. But it means those straight line segments connecting the dots get longer. And that directly makes the distance measurement less precise. It's a real design trade-off.
Right, that makes sense. And that trade-off is exactly what this runner, Joe Dumas, looked into with his study. His method was pretty clever. Over 10 years, he used his own run data, always on the exact same route. And he gathered hundreds of data points from 3 different Garmin Forerunners. The old 205 from 2006, the mid-range 220 from 2013, and then a newer 45S from 2019. And to get a baseline, he figured out a nominal true distance for his route, 5,685 meters, using several online GIS mapping tools. Those really precise digital maps.
Yeah, and to really measure accuracy properly, the study looked at 2 things, trueness and precision. So trueness is basically how close does the watch's average distance get to that known true distance? And precision is by consistency. Does the watch give you pretty much the same reading every time you run that route? Low variation, a small standard deviation means high precision, even if it's consistently a little bit off the true mark.
Okay, got it. Trueness and precision. So with all that careful data collection, what did the study actually find? What was the big reveal?
Well, this is the kicker. The older Forerunner 205 and the 220, they showed statistically equivalent accuracy. Basically, they performed almost identically, both in terms of trueness, getting close to that 5,685 meter mark, and in precision, being really consistent run after run. Their average reported distances were incredibly close, right around 5,667 meters.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying a newer watch, the 45S, something you'd expect to be an improvement, actually turned out to be significantly less accurate. That feels really counterintuitive, especially for runners who rely on this data.
It absolutely is, and that's what's so fascinating here. The newer Forerunner 45S was, yes, significantly less accurate. Its average reported distance was over 70 meters longer than the older models. That's nearly a 1.3% overestimation. And maybe even more importantly, its standard deviation, the measure of precision or consistency was nearly twice as large, much less precise. It really points towards a different set of priorities for Garmin with that particular model.
Wow. And just to put that in perspective against the map-based true distance, the old 205 and 220 actually measured a tiny bit short, like a 0.3% short. But the 45S measured noticeably long, about 1% longer than the estimated actual distance.
Exactly. So the conclusion from the study is pretty strong. It suggests that sometime between 2013 and 2019, Garmin likely made a conscious choice, at least for models like the Forerunner 45S, to prioritize other things. Things like making it smaller, lighter, and increasing that battery life, possibly at the expense of top-tier distance accuracy.
So, bringing it all together then, this deep dive seems to show that while older Garmin running watches were impressively accurate generation over generation, there might be this trade-off happening in some of the newer models, where size and battery life start to edge out pinpoint accuracy. So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Yeah, it really leaves us like something to think about, doesn't it? As the technology keeps advancing, what features matter most to you in your running tech? Is it getting that sleeker design and not having to charge it as often? Or is it knowing that the distance number on your wrist is as absolutely accurate as possible? How do you personally balance those priorities when you're looking at new gear?
It's definitely an important question
Thanks
about
for
what
watching.
we truly value in our
I hope you
wearables.
liked it or learned new things. Please also visit me on X, Instagram, or read my blog articles on WordPress. Bye.